sports is a main avenue in television that a lot of people take time to watch. But at the end of the day, it didn't really start getting big until Babe Ruth and the New York Yankees took over the MLB. The MLB stands for Major League Baseball. And I never really found an interest in it after the World Series in 2016, but I have heard that there's been some interesting developments, like the Houston Astros cheating fiasco and whatever a Fernando Tatis Jr. is. Sports are an amazing thing for me because I was able to partake in flag football, and I used to be in golf camps, basketball camps, and baseball camps. I am a major fan of basketball and football due to the fact that there's so many people in those sports, and I just kind of want to cover some of those guys first. Football is a sport that most of America has watched, mostly due to the fact of longevity. There's been a lot of fellas that have stayed in this sport for a long time. There used to be an older section of people. By that I mean the 2000s and before. There were Joe Montana and Troy Aikman, John Elway, and a few others. And everybody loved hanging out with those guys all the time. You would find Jerry Rice in that scene. You would find Emmitt Smith in that scene. It was very, very talented. But in the 2000s, it began to be even more talented. Like, for instance, in the 2009 to 2010 season, Drew Brees and the New Orleans Saints won over a very strong Indianapolis Colts team led by Peyton Manning. So this would be Super Bowl 44. The main reason why I remember this Super Bowl is, well, it had two of the star quarterbacks of the generation. There are generational defining stars, like Terry Bradshaw and the Pittsburgh Steelers in the 1970s, and there's also Warren Moon, Brett Favre, Elway, Troy Aikman, Joe Montana, Steve Young. All those guys really defined the 90s and the 2000s. A few names that come off the top of my head here would be Tom Brady, Peyton Manning, Drew Brees, Michael Vick, Philip Rivers, Eli Manning, some guy from the Steelers, Aaron Rodgers, Carson Palmer, and the ever-growing list of Cleveland Browns starters. Most of these names reached the big championship, which would be the Super Bowl, throughout the 2000s and 2010s. If you're a fan, you'll understand easily why I mentioned those Browns starters. In this entire span of Cleveland football, there was 32 separate quarterbacks. While the rest of the list went to the Super Bowl mostly, the Browns were never close. The New England Patriots, led by Tom Brady, had achieved the trip 9 times in that span. The 2000s and 2010s are very different than the even newer generation. Names that have started to pop up include Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, Jalen Hurts, Justin Herbert, and Tua Tagovailoa, who lead the charge as the remaining 2000s quarterbacks are slowly going out of the league. Football's reach extends past just the quarterback position, but the longevity of the quarterbacks continue to impress the American audience. I could ramble about the Adrian Petersons and Derrick Henrys, but the only point I have for all of this is football is an enjoyable experience for everybody, and I can't wait to see how football does eventually change in the future. When I was 3, the Cleveland Cavaliers drafted star basketball player LeBron James. James's career in Cleveland ended in 2010, only for him to come back at a later date. But watching him grow into a all-star level player was amazing. Kevin Durant was also a major part of the basketball landscape at the time, reaching the finals against LeBron in 2012. The older, more experienced players before them, like Tim Duncan, Kobe Bryant, and Shaquille O'Neal, led the charge and won many championships. So, a weird thing about me is that I kind of stopped watching basketball for a while, especially when LeBron went back to Cleveland and they had that big feud with the Warriors, including stars like Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, and Draymond Green. But as of recent, in about 2019, I started actually caring about the sport again, mostly due to a single man named Kawhi Leonard leading the Toronto Raptors to a championship. There's a new layer of basketball players that are pushing a wave of talent otherwise unseen in the NBA as of recent. Big man Joel Embiid leads the Philadelphia 76ers. Luka Doncic and the Dallas Mavericks are pretty good as well, and the Cavs continue to inspire and change with new talent like Jared Allen and Darius Garland. The Phoenix Suns and the Milwaukee Bucks are my two highlight teams as of right now, mostly due to LeBron's newest team, the Los Angeles Lakers, being in the middle of the pack. This section is all about other sports. I honestly don't know jack about any of this, but it is important to talk about at least a little bit. There are three major male tennis players that have defined the sport for a while, those being Roger Federer, Novak Djokovic, and Rafael Nadal. These three guys just keep winning every single championship, man. It's ridiculous. I'll just say it's ridiculous. Federer has taken a break from competition while Nadal and Djokovic continue to play, and they keep ping-ponging major championship wins, and it's probably never going to end, and that's actually kind of crazy. Another major star in tennis is Serena Williams. She has made history in many facets, leaving the sport with every title an athlete can get, and that's impressive. I won't lie, that's something that not many people can say they did. Another major sport that I have kind of fallen out of sight with is golf. The main reason that I cared about golf was Tiger Woods, but he hasn't had a strong stretch of major wins in forever, and he's probably close to retirement age now when it comes to golf. Another guy in this field would be Rory McIlroy, but he's also kind of fallen down. I hope that golf gets better over time, but it continues to slip. It's not as interesting as it used to be. I used to watch a fair amount of baseball, but I started to see it as a very boring sport. I did watch the 2016 World Series, as I said earlier, because of the Cleveland Indians. But now I don't really have a reason to watch. I know there's a guy named Tatis Jr. and Aaron Judge, I guess, but I don't see an interest in that sport that much anymore. I know it's all about history and unwritten rules, and I don't think I have time for that. When I mention anything when it comes to fighting, when it comes to a sport that is bloody, you automatically think of the UFC. And the UFC is the front runner for mixed martial arts, and there's a lot of stars in there, but I've never bought a pay-per-view. I've never seen a full fight. And the only two names that I can really bring up in my head is Daniel Cormier and Conor McGregor. And that's mostly because they defined the generation of talent that went through during this period. Um, Again, if it was like something free to watch or if I even had an interest, then I would have watched it. I could talk about the history of professional wrestling for a while, but that doesn't really make any sense in the grand scheme of things. There's big stars like John Cena, Rey Mysterio, Brock Lesnar, Triple H, Edge, CM Punk. There's a lot of guys I could talk about. There's a lot of ladies I could talk about, like Becky Lynch and Charlotte Flair and Asuka. But the main thing is that I like the story that goes on throughout every single wrestling match. And you don't see that in many other sports unless it's like the NFL rigging a game so that somebody looks cool as shit. So I really hope um, at least somebody gives pro wrestling a look or two because it's interesting how they write these stories and how long it takes to get a resolution. It is cool to look back on sports and figure out why I even have an interest in any of it. And it's amazing to see how some of them have changed over time. Hundreds of thousands watch at home while thousands fill stadiums to the roof for their favorite teams. Sports will most likely remain profitable going into the future, with the intrigue and history of each of them bringing in more of an audience. There are newer sports that have arose as of recent, so new viewers will continue to have options on what they want to watch at any time of day. For instance, chess boxing. This video is the second part of a series where I look back on subjects that have a history with me. Thanks for watching this video. There will be more of these in the future.